meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education and public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and read the mission and vision. Our mission is to foster academic and social growth for each student in a safe, supportive school environment. Our vision is to be a learning community that inspires our students and staff to think critically, grow intellectually, and live with integrity. Okay. Item 3. Are there any additions? Can I have a motion for the approval agenda as it stands?
I'll move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item passes. Can I have a motion the approval of minutes from the regular meeting of November 20th, 2023, and the special meeting of December 11th, 2023.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item passes.
Oh, we can set up any discussion, but I didn't have
Yeah. This
Moving right
time.
along, aren't you,
This
Tony?
time.
Not this time.
So Dr. Banks, do you want to take us through your administrative report?
Yep, I'll do that first, but then we can have Mr. Warmack and Mr. Dunn.
Well, I think we'll go ahead and move through. We'll stop before we have anything to vote on.
Okay.
And then as Mr. Dunn shows up, we'll go ahead and have them speak at that time.
Okay, good. So just a few updates I wanted to share. We did receive a grant from Ohio State's Leading Recovery Grant Program. It provided us with $127,500 to do high dosage tutoring for 85 of our students at Finneytown Elementary. And so Jen Bayless has been working with our grade level teachers to figure out who receives that and how we're going to disperse that. It's a one-time grant right now. We're hoping the state will maybe consider renewing it after this year, but we know we have it for this school year. So that is.
So is that focused around, is that like the learning lag from COVID, or is that just in general?
It's part of the literacy initiatives done by
Okay.
the state and the governor, so.
Great. So is that going into particular staff members, or is that?
It's based on student need and conversations they've had per grade level about who would be best, because we only have 85 slots, so we have probably more need than we have slots, and so we're working through that with the teams.
To be like after school tutoring that teachers would?
We're trying to do it all during the school day.
During the school day?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we've partnered with Amplify. They are the provider, and so it's all purchase services through that contract. And they also are the vendor for our on-track, off-track screening of DIBELS. So they're very familiar, and they help us monitor and progress monitor for the reporting requirements for the grant. So
Okay.
that's been very good. On there, you'll see the consolidated school report. That's just, we do it every year this time of year. That's where we report to the state just information around our training. It includes our AED trainings that we do, nutritional standards, different things like that. Several years ago, there was an issue with our report, so we had to put it in the board agenda to make sure the board knew, because we missed the deadline.
Okay.
We don't need to do that anymore. We've just kept it as a reminder to kind of keep us on, make sure we don't miss that in the future. So, but that has been filed and submitted. We have our community focus groups coming up this Wednesday with Tom and Mary for the strategic planning. We have a 9 o'clock session and a 5 o'clock session here in the media center. So if you have intentional invites, if anyone knows anybody who wants to participate, please reach out to them. I'm going to send a text reminder. We did an update on Facebook today to remind people, but we're hoping to get as many community members to come in and be a part of that conversation.
There was a question that we received a few weeks ago about
Right.
the agenda. Were you able to respond to that?
Yeah, I worked with Tom and got back at you, and I actually characterized the nature of how he worked with us.
Is there a way that we could publish that agenda for others? Because I've heard that question before, and I've had to explain what we're doing.
I
But
can forward you what I sent out.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
thank you.
And then there'll be an additional opportunity in January at a Pro Action Cafe, because we know this time of year is kind of busy. In terms of, I just wanted to put this on the radar of the board. I sent it in the last board update, but we have the solar eclipse coming in April, and districts are deciding to handle it different ways. I shared with you the different ways that other local districts are sharing it. I don't have a strong sense one way or the other. I'm not sure of if you guys do. Everybody's doing from staying open to a PD day to early release. Everybody's handling it a little bit differently, so.
I meant to check before the meeting, but what time is the eclipse?
3 o'clock.
It's right around dismissal of secondary campus.
Yeah, it's like 3:07 to 3:15, something like that.
Then it might not be necessary to cancel school altogether.
I would recommend at least an early dismissal, because at most, if they're walking out at dismissal during an
Yeah,
eclipse, they're
that's
gonna
not
need the
a good
glasses
idea.
anyways.
Yeah.
So either an early dismissal or something where we provide glasses.
How would that affect our scheduling for the rest of the year? Would we have to give up something, or?
No.
No?
We have
Okay.
enough hours built in. We could just do an early release.
I'd be inclined to say that, but if you can get as many students classes as possible.
Okay, well, I'll write up a little proposal and we can take action on it in January. Make sure it works for everybody.
Yeah, I noticed some schools did the early release, but then have professional development for
For the
staff.
staff, yeah.
I don't want that. I want our staff to be able
They'll
to
enjoy it
go
as well.
enjoy it too, yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that.
So I'll get that in January to you guys. And then just an update on our Stronger Connection grant. We have a brunch planned for our daycare and preschool providers on January 20th. And then we will have 2 follow-up learning sessions for our future kindergarten students planned in March. It's a 2-part series. It'll be offered in the morning and in the afternoon. And so that is coming along in planning. So more will be shared as we get further along, but we do have dates on the calendar now for that, so.
Do you need any board support for the January 20th brunch? Do you want us to be there at all? Is there anything you want us to do?
You are absolutely welcome to come. It is at, I can share the date and time, it's gonna be at FE. We've invited, I think, 20 different daycare and preschool providers in the area. So our hope is we get 10, and then kind of grow it from there. And then Cindy Cron, anyone who doesn't come, she's gonna go to the centers and drop off the information so that any future families still have access to the information in the planning series, or the learning series with the family, so,
So daycare would include preschools?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep.
And that's for the providers, not for the parents?
The 20th is for the providers.
Okay.
It's to create that network and pathway to our families. And then the learning series in March is for our future families, our future students, so.
Awesome.
And then you'd still have the kindergarten camp later then, or is this?
We're still working, that kind of continues to kind of evolve
Right.
based on the planning and the kindergarten team. I'm not involved more directly with that. That's more of a
Gotcha.
building-led thing. So this Stronger Connection grant is being led by myself, Meredith, Jesse, and then Cindy Cron and Sandy Kroll, our preschool coordinator, so.
Okay.
And then I did provide from our last meeting a copy of a draft of the topics for January board meetings. It's very loose and there's holes in it for us to put things in when we meet for the organizational meeting in January, but I wanted to get it in front of you so you could at least start looking at it and think about between now and our organizational meeting what you would like to have shared at our different meetings going into 2024, so.
Thank you.
And then, how could I forget? Last but not least, Tony.
Mhm.
So tonight's your last meeting
It is.
officially, and we wanted to thank you for your service to the district for the last 8 years on the board, as well as your service as a parent and just community member to our district. It's been a gift. And so we all went in and got you a little gift that we hope you'll be able to celebrate with Dawn and your family.
Okay.
In addition, we had joyously sweet treats in the back and some specially designed cookies just for you on your last night serving our district. So
Okay.
just from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate the support and how you show up. And I know everyone in this space would agree with that, so thank you very much.
Yeah. Enjoyed doing it. Mostly.
So, and that's all I have.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go on to public address then.
Okay.
And does anybody else turn in a blue sheet? You know,
As I received it.
Okay? So I'll just read this here, and you can come and address the board. The board believes it is in its best interest and the best interest of the students of the district to hear comments from members of the public. It has been therefore a long-standing practice of the board to encourage and allow residents to speak at the public meeting. This may be done by completing the bottom portion of this form and giving it to the board president prior to the board meeting. Following guidelines ensure that anyone interested in addressing the board may do so. The board conducts the business of the school district in an effective and efficient manner. Attendees must register their intent to participate in the public participation portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting by completing this form returned to the board president or the presiding officer. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. For the public record, each speaker addressing the board must state their name, address, and group affiliation, if and when appropriate. Any material and handouts must be presented to the treasurer for record. Naming of individuals, profanity, abusive language, and speeches that invade individual privacies will not be tolerated or permitted. The board will take no action regarding the matter or issues presented through public address in the meeting in which the public address was made. All necessary follow-ups will be made verbally or in writing at a later date.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michael Hamill. I live at 8532 Brent Drive, and I was going to address several things that had come up, and I decided to tone it down just a little bit because there are a couple of things that I find are outstanding that I'm disappointed about. I spoke with you last in August, and it took until 45 minutes before the last meeting in November to get a reply to the questions that I had, the situations that were ongoing. And you know how I all feel about, I'm adamantly opposed to the gender-neutral bathrooms in the K-6 school. I'm not going to let that go. I do believe that there's a way we can turn that around and give them privacy and security to the kids and the due respect that they deserve. I've heard the arguments about the bullying, or the lack thereof with this space. I've heard all the arguments. There are other arguments that I do not believe have been brought into play. And it's psychological. That has to do with the kids. And in dealing with the group that's going to be designing the secondary school for the next go-round, I'd like to have you make sure that their statement underneath their name is architect, not psychologist, not social counselors, or anything like that. Because I was disappointed that finally, after many, many attempts at getting a hold of the architects, I did have a chance to talk with them. And I was just kind of curious, does anybody up here know who might have tipped them off that I was going to be calling? And they would be needing to field some questions from me. And I was very surprised when I was given the information about I was going to be calling. I didn't think that was necessary, but we had a really good conversation and got a lot of good information from the group. So I would like to have you make sure the architects stick with their job, design the buildings, leave the psychology and the social networking to other groups and individuals. The other situation I'd like to talk about is a discussion that did ensue, I'm sure you're all aware of it, at the end of last month concerning different situations. One of them is the gender-neutral bathrooms, and fielded it into other situations and kind of settled on a point of contest with the Constitution. But it came down to actually it's not the Constitution. It has nothing to do with the Bill of Rights. I distributed little booklets from Hillsdale College that has the copies of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence that I hope you'll all use in the future and pass it on to the next board members, along with the Bibles that should have come your way a couple of months ago. Use them as reference because that's where American education started, and it morphed from there. And that's a whole other line of discussion down the road. And I know you've heard it before, and I'll let you know it's not going to be the end of it. But I have a letter that I'd like to read where the confusion from the separation of church and state comes from directly.
And you do have 2 minutes.
Okay. It comes from a letter that was written by President Thomas Jefferson in 1802. The president, he allowed buildings to be used by the War and Treasury Departments along with the Capitol and Supreme Court chambers to be used for religious services. He described the use of the First Amendment as figuratively building a wall of separation between church and state. He wasn't saying that it was a definite wall. Then in the 20th century, this phrase became a type of litmus test for whether or not legislation violated the First Amendment. Over time, the courts have created several other similar tests. Some scholars continue to argue that Jefferson's wall is meant to be a separation between the federal government and churches at state and local level. They do not believe that Jefferson wanted a separation between all levels of government and all individual religious practices, meaning the federal government does not have the right to create a national religion, but general religious acknowledgments can be used, not just identifying or pushing any one individual religion. So it did come up, and it did come up with the comments about feelings, about we have to look out for other students' feelings, but what about the individuals that are being damaged and hurt by not being able to express themselves for their own religious freedom, which is sanctified by the First Amendment? So with that, I will leave that go, and I look forward to future conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's it for public address. We have a review of action steps. So, Mr. Oliverio, it's got a pretty big task. I don't know how you've been progressing on it there.
It's not completed yet.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about it.
Okay. Yeah. So the request was specifically athletic budget and budget as compared to other schools in our league.
And band as well.
Yeah.
I didn't notice the band edition. Was that an edition since last month? Okay, that was included.
Okay, the second was monthly board meeting, general topic, theme calendar, draft review, organization meeting. Dr. Francis gone through that. I think that was, and strategic plan next steps, which was announced in the administrative report. That's good. Okay. Board coordination matters. I'm going to go first. Even though these bags look festive, they happen to be the gift bags that were at Kroger today. Were the right size, so they're really not. They look like they're Christmas gifts, and they could be from your grandparents when you were a child. But what's in them? You can all open your bags now. This is in theme with my last month. So I'm going to do whatever the law allows. So they all got socks. I have a friend who was and by the way, all I knew was size. So if you think there's some deep meaning in the animal you got, and I also made sure not to have skunks or anything like that too.
Good choice.
But I had a friend who was a lawyer, and he always wore really colorful socks in court. And judges it was, the court isn't exactly a lively place. He got me some for being on the board. And some of you may remember 7 or so years ago, when it was the month celebrating children with Down syndrome, I actually put my foot up on the table to show my colorful socks. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I think Anita would remember it, though. Anita was, I took some adjusting by myself and for others, on my behavior during board meetings. But to me, it's just a reminder. I'm wearing giraffes tonight. Sometimes I wear sharks. I have all kinds. But it's like, reminds me I'm here about kids. I mean, there's a lot of business which doesn't seem very kid-oriented. But I also just love fun socks, But just, I wear them, and a few things I do. I also wear a ring each month. I don't usually wear a ring. And this one here I got in Bogota. I'm an emotional person. I'm trying to get through this. And I was down there for 3 different short-term missions with families which were, by American standards, were destitute. Didn't have, most of their floors were dirt, but it was just, but they went out, they went to school, they had their full lives. And we have a lot of families whose challenge is monetary in this district. And for me, it's just one thing I do to remember my friends in Bogota, but also remember, we have families here who a lot of things we think of, we'll just solve that, we'll just go out and buy dinner that night, whatever. That's not the life a lot of the families in this district get to enjoy. The other thing I do, and this time I'm doing a little different, I wear my Friend of Children button, and actually I have been awarded that twice. And I do it not to show off anything special, but just to show I appreciate that honor. The first one was after our 7th child finished with elementary. And the second was we went through the first rounds of the completely unnecessarily horrible state funding for the schools. And I got to present every week and spend the time enough to explain to elementary PTA why what anything was doing was reasonable or legal and why we had to just deal with it. And wasn't really often bringing good news of anything during that time when I was with the elementary PTA. But they appreciated me sticking with them and supporting them during that time. So those are just kind of little things I do as my rituals for coming here. And now you all have socks. I'm not going to check if you ever wear them. And so now to the actual board coordination part. So the first item I think we'll do board member reports first, and we'll do the item ahead of that on the agenda afterwards. So for myself, we had a finance committee meeting. I will miss those. Talk about things I will and will not miss. No, the finance committee meeting, learning the school finances. Dave, even this time, some of the questions, came up, and he actually quizzed us, like, why do you think that's the case? And I was glad to know the answer. I think Dave was just trying to figure out if I had listened in 8 years, 8.5 years, but I think he learned I had actually learned. So, what we're looking at right now, we have our 5-year budget, and, there's an acceleration of costs in all kinds of ways, and not really, unless we find new ways of funding the school through partnerships. 3-4 years from now, we're really in the red as far as our general budget. So I do have to admit, to some degree, I would not mind being part of those discussions either. I mean, as the great discussions, celebrations are good, but what really gets serious is when I like to think I shine. I don't step away from a problem. I also trust this same board will have that same character as those topics come up. So there was a lot in there. A lot. I'm actually a forecasting expert. That's my job professionally. If you have what you want at a Kroger store, it's because my forecast was good. If it's not there, there was a supply chain issue. In case
Oh, so that's my fault.
Kroger supply chain, yes. But anyway, so reading Dave's thoroughness and his explanations, his caveats and everything going into it, and appreciating, he shows us, what he calls a conservative, as in, you might also call it, it's not really worst case, there could be a lot worse cases, but really, something which is a very realistic expectation to make sure we're staying focused on the financial forecast. But I did not attend the Education Foundation meeting this month. I was playing flag football. So that's one indulgence I'll allow myself, as I still play flag football. Okay, so we'll finish this part, we'll all go, and then we'll let Gerald and Mr. Dunn speak. So is that okay, Tim? Can we have the board do their coordination part, or do you need to go right now? You can answer truthfully.
I gotta let you guys go, and there's no way you're going to only do that in 5 minutes, and so I gotta get back to another.
Okay, come on. Yeah.
Just jumped out of
His knee is healed. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. So I had this harebrained idea of how to monitor student athletes after talking to some of my buddies who coach in college. So this is a college program that we're trying to implement here at Finneytown in order to make sure that our students, one, maintain eligibility throughout the season, but also maintain eligibility before the season and beyond the season. I do not have a lot of time on my hand, and I monitor the grades for the student athletes. And one of the things that we do, if a student athlete has a D or an F, I generally make them sit, so I put them on academic probation, which really isn't fair to an extent, because there's nothing in place other than meeting with me, being put on a grade sheet for them to be able to get their grades back up. Thus comes this program. So again, it's in its infancy. There are some obstacles that we're still facing, i.e. tutoring. How do we actually get everyone in the district on board to make sure this happens? So I contacted Tim because I know Tim is great at planning this stuff out. And so Tim and I sat down and we came up with a map, a roadmap of how this would actually look once it's fully implemented. And I think it would actually, once we get implemented and we do some trial runs with the athletes, I think it's something that we can actually implement district-wide and help the kids learn to monitor their own grades and actually police themselves. So with that being said, I want to turn this over to Tim and let him do the rest.
Well, I wanted, as we've started the academic success program for the athletic department, we have tried to keep in mind how we might be able to apply it across the board with the other students that aren't athletes. What I can say is we've had a couple of people that have stepped up to really help out significantly. One is Grant Anderson. Before, when I would pull the grades, I had to pull all the kids, every kid that's in the grade, sort them out and physically delete them or sort them by sport. And so he's got it set up to where we can actually run a report and then send that to the coach. I'll also say there are coaches that have embraced it. Our girls soccer coach, I went to her, delivered the bad news that she had X number of kids with multiple Fs on the team. She responded very quickly, and I'm pretty certain that there's only one that carried over into the second quarter. Coach Tatum did the same thing. There were like 13 kids that were on the team. We met with Coach Tatum, and he had already started developing a plan with some of the kids anyway, the student athletes, so that we want them to take onus of this. Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere. And so getting them to check progress book and things like that has been a little bit more of a challenge, but we're going to still keep pushing on that. But there were 13, 15 Fs that were multiple Fs players on the team, and that was dwindled down to, I think, 2, maybe 3. And so we've seen some success already. It's been done by those who have embraced it. And so Gerald will tell you that whenever I send the reports out to the coaches, he'll get inundated with calls. I'll get inundated with calls. I've had, just this last week, 3 different coaches contact me, and I like to tell them, I'm not doing the eligibility thing, I'm just telling you. And so if you might not be aware of this, the OHSAA is a little bit different standard than what we have right now. What was adopted by the policy from the board level, I think it was back in the early 2000s, was if you had 2 Fs, then you weren't able to play. And so you were considered ineligible.
During the week.
During the week.
You had 2 Fs during the week.
And so that would typically carry over into the quarter with the OHSAA. So we're continuing to strive to get our kids to understand it better. The school has done a tremendous job with the fall sports preview night, the winter sports preview night. I was able to speak to every student and every parent that attended and let them know this is coming. And so, and even the coaches, and it's amazing how many coaches want to just talk to you about, well, what about, and they give it the what about scenarios, and I'm not monitoring by the what about, that's what he does. And so we're excited about where this can go. We are still working on how to develop a better communication track. We might actually have to change the every week thing to an every other week type thing, so because the way that things are being graded, and so that's up to Ms. Miller and Gerald. But it's just become really difficult, particularly when teachers are trying to get caught up on grading anyway, to find out that a kid's turned the work in and they're eligible. And I can say that from a personal standpoint. My daughter's a pretty good student, and she had multiple Fs in a couple different classes, and it was because work hadn't been graded. And so after I lost it, and Ms. Miller talked me down off a ledge, and we found out it was mainly because the teacher hadn't had the opportunities to grade. And so I've got a couple things here, kind of just explain a little bit what it is. One is just what they'll get. It's a bit of the coaches will get. It kind of explains how close the student really is to passing, and so we'll let them know what the grade is, and what the potential grade is if they would just turn their work in. And so a lot of our student athletes are just not turning the work in. And so hopefully, after a few times, I know Gerald actually had to hold, a couple of the kids' hands to the fire a little bit and sit them. And so
The entire boys basketball team.
yeah, and lost a game that probably could have won. And then we were talking to Coach Hall, he is 100% behind it, and that's what we really need. Because like I said, the women's girls soccer coach, Coach Tatum on the football team, they really embraced it. And then we're seeing academic, really the desire for us to be academic excellence, first and foremost. And so we try to tell all of them, they are student athletes. So we're not treating them like they're athletes that happen to be students as well. So I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to do it, and Gerald, and of course Lori and Carol, and just keeps me involved in coaching since I'm not coaching football right now. So you don't really get to yell at the kids, but it's still good. So
You just gotta pick and choose what we do.
yeah. So here are a couple handouts. I'm going to just list up here, and you guys can pass them down.
And with that being said, so we pull grades generally on Mondays or Tuesdays, and students do have an opportunity to get those up. It's like Tim said, sometimes they've turned the work into the teacher hasn't graded it. So if the teacher will email me, then I will hold off on the suspension for that week.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the buck stops with me. And I've been tutoring kids in science. So if there's kids who are struggling in science that need help, they know they can come to my office and I'll sit down with them and I'll tutor them. There are several teachers who actually have tutoring sessions that are available, and then Tim and I are actually working within the community to try to find other people so we can actually create a regular tutoring schedule here on campus for our students.
Yeah, my schedule will be Wednesdays and Thursdays after the first of the year. I just had knee replacement, so I haven't been able to do it for this quarter. But after the first of the year, I'll have a couple hours each day on Wednesdays and Thursdays, so kids can come find me between 2 and 4. So. All right.
Any questions for us?
How are you feeling, Tim? Feeling better?
But with the
I mean,
program,
just like with your surgery.
oh,
Not related.
I don't know how senior citizens get a knee replacement. I'll be honest, like it's been pretty crazy. So, but much better. Thanks for asking.
Okay.
Could I get a chance to talk to you guys just about this, being I was an athlete in college and am aware of how these worked in college and how every college athlete knew eligibility standards
so
there, and
we-
it is different in high
A
school.
lot different,
Yeah.
and we recognize that. I played college football, and I mean, I remember if you got a D or an F, you carry 245-pound plates around the entire stadium, made every step. That was abusive, now I think about it, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not whether they go off to play college football or whatever, it's so that they graduate and become productive citizens in our society. That's the end goal.
And taking the ownership has been part of the issue. Like when I met with a couple of the kids, said, you're not able to, you've got multiple Fs because you're not turning the work in. And so this was actually adopted from Coastal Carolina University as well as Georgia Tech. I took 2 different programs that they were doing and modified it to where it might fit better with our schedule and the rigor of a high school student as opposed to a college student.
And we're willing to take any suggestions.
Absolutely.
Again,
Yeah, and
it's a
I want to
framework.
learn more, and I might be able to offer to that. That's
Sure.
it.
Definitely a framework, so.
And we're always looking for tutors.
Yeah, I appreciate, you following the policy passed at some point in time. If you're saying that just for the lag purposes, that needs to be stretched to 2 or 3 weeks or however that works, just make sure you give that feedback to the board.
Yeah.
Well, my plan was to come to the board in the spring and have a conversation about that.
Yeah,
Because it is difficult.
Yeah.
It is difficult to really, hold the kids accountable, but teachers I was in the classroom, so I know how busy you get as a teacher. And it's kind of hard to keep up with grading, especially if you're truly teaching, so.
It can be very difficult to keep grades updated every single week.
Yes.
Well,
It's
there's
very-
ways for them to be able to
At
adjust. If they
certain
know they
times.
can't grade them, then you
Yeah.
can change the date.
Yeah.
That way,
So-
would they know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, as students, if they have an absence, they have to go to the doctor, they
There's
get sick
other
for a few
things
days,
that-
their
Yep.
grade can drop very quickly
Yeah.
until they get the makeup work
Yep.
done. It seems over punitive.
Yeah.
Well, and I monitor attendance as well, so I'll ask Ms. Haskell to pull the attendance for all the athletes that we, so I monitor that as well. And weirdly enough, we've had a significant number of athletes who suffered deaths in the family or some other type of tragic event, so I take all of those things into account.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the teachers, I will say, like, when you communicate to the teachers will communicate back. I mean, my daughter fell back academically largely because I came back from Kenya and that brought COVID back from Kenya. I didn't get it while I was here, but I got it, my wife got it, my son got it, and my daughter was literally taking about a week and a half taking care of all of us, and so she fell behind in her schoolwork a little bit, and the teachers were more than willing to work with her on it, and so adjusted some things to let us know. But we want the communication, particularly with the parents as well.
Yes.
I mean, like, the parents who get upset because they think you're just trying to punish their kid, and that's not the deal. We want them to be.
And ironically, the parents have been really appreciative of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they hear from us a lot, and so they really appreciate the fact that we're taking an additional interest in their kids, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.
OSBA posted something today about high school athletics, actually, not today, but this month. They are relaunching the Respect the Game campaign, mainly to do around sportsmanship at various sports events with parents and spectators. Not sure if that's anything that's been a problem for us, but if we need to look into that, I know that may be something we want to look at. And then there was a reminder, we need to update OSBA membership roster with new members. Oh, there was an email that went out with all of the artists that participated at Mount St. Joseph University, and I just wanted to say congratulations to them. Their artwork was just phenomenal. So that would be Paige Fecky, Giovanni Lee, Udo Aziri, Akira Trim, and that one was actually my personal favorite, the watercolor and ink. It was just stunning, absolutely stunning work. So congratulations to them. I thought they did a wonderful job. I already asked that question. I did not attend the boosters meeting because it was canceled. And Grant, I'm still not on the FAA email distribution, so I have no idea what's going on.
I
If
can
you can just pass that
remind
along.
President.
I know it's not you.
Yep, not a
If you
problem.
could just help me with that, I would appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, I did attend the King of the Hill wrestling tournament for a little while. It looked really fun. I love going to those. I didn't quite get there on time because I thought it was at the elementary school and work was a little chaotic, but I really like seeing the wrestling program and how much it's grown. And then lastly, I met with Dr. Banks on Friday and we talked through a few things. So there was some questions in the community about behavior and different trends and consequences and consistency. So we started pulling some data and looking at different trends, and I have the data. I didn't get to look at it this weekend yet, but I wanted to dig into it a little bit more, and the goal is to make sure that we're being consistent, identifying trends, and seeing if we need to take action anywhere or in somewhere. So.
And that's what was sent on over the weekend, correct? Okay.
And that's everything.
Okay. Jamie?
Sat in on the same budget committee meeting with Tony and had the same questions. Just I'd encourage the board members to look at, if you have any questions more specifically, talk to Dave and read the executive summary. I think it had some really good information in there. We're going to have to keep it in mind, basically. That is something we're going to have to look at going forward. And Tony, thank you for your years of service. I appreciate everything you've done for the district. And enjoy. Essentially your retirement from here, but just thank you.
And it reminded me, so Dave did add an executive summary to the 5-year plan. So it was a response actually into our review with him and people wanting more. And instead of needing to arrange a special meeting with Dave, he put that together. So
Awesome.
I found it really informative, really broke things down nicely. I even read through it and I agreed he did a good job. Hey, Eddie, you want to go?
Yeah. So the FMPA hosted, along with the PTA, I'm not sure if they did it with the PTA or not, but I know there's a lot of overlap with volunteers, but they hosted the pancake breakfast this past Saturday. And I did want to say thank you. This is from the FMPA, but they listed a whole bunch of people and organizations that donated for that. Jay Gumbos and Sarah Braun, Vineyard Finneytown, Milford Nutrition Services, Sandy Tenenfeld, and all those others who donated food or materials for the pancake breakfast, and all those who gave their time to help run the event. On the 19th, that says 2, 3, and voices. Is that just 2 and 3? Okay, yes, it's tomorrow. And then also, I did want to follow up. I sent you all email about a month ago related to something about a 5th grade band. So I've had a follow-up conversation, I talked with Lori and Meredith and Jen I think it was this week or last week. Things kind of blended together. It was last week. So I got some clarity on how scheduling works, which is not something that's really a board matter. I mean, at this point, we are in good hands with our principals. They're making decisions that are in the best interests of our students. So even though I look at it and I think, if I was in 5th grade, I'd want band multiple days a week. I just don't think we're at the point where the board needs to do much about that, but I didn't want to follow up on that because I can't do it in any other setting other than this. It's something that we could look at, and it's hard to know what the impacts would be or even what's causing them, if they're even we'd have to look longer term than how students are doing in band, and it could be a year before we see what impact that there would be on only having band 1 day a week, and there's other things that are taken into consideration for that as well. So I just wanted to follow up on that. And then, I know we already thanked Tony, but, so, again, thank you. And just wanted to say that I appreciate you sticking it out. And the board that we have had the past 2 years is not the board you signed up for necessarily, but you stuck with it anyway. And I know you'll still be around. And, we might call you back in if we need some advice, but you kind of had leadership thrust upon you, and you rose to the occasion. So I want to say thanks again for that, and I know we already thanked you, but I thought it was necessary. The other thing is, on a personal note, my wife's due date is on the 26th of January, so really the baby could come at any point now. So if all of a sudden I just go radio silent, then that's probably what has happened. So I'll try to send out a picture or something via email, and that might be all you get. And then I would assume that you probably won't hear from me for about 2 to 3 weeks, unless something urgent or an emergency were to come up after that point. So I'll have 2 weeks off, and then I'll probably miss the board meeting immediately following that, depending on how things fall. So just so you know, I may be MIA at any point for a month, but we don't get 6 weeks off. I get 2 weeks at the same time, and that's it. Yeah, just so you know, I'll try to respond, and then after that, might be busier from time to time for the next 6 months.
To life.
To say the least. What'd you say?
To life. 6
Well
months to
done.
life.
We all know babies, man.
Yeah,
It's all right.
especially the next 6 months, so I wanted to let you guys know. And I think that is all that I have.
All right. I was not able to attend the PTA meeting, the primary, because I was really sick, but I was involved with the winter market, which was a success. The PTA brought in over $1,000, so thanks to everyone who came out and donated time and resources, as well as our local vendors and Chick-fil-A Fairfield for donating 75 sandwiches. So overall, it was a very good event and well attended. So the secondary PTA, they're selling Mike's car washes. You can get a basic car wash for $11 or the ultimate wash for $22. And the PTA actually gets to keep 50% of the sales. So go ahead and snag those car washes because we're going to need them for the winter months ahead. Wildcat Serve will be having a wrapping party for food baskets and gifts. That will be to help our local families that are in need. So if you have any time availability, reach out to Renee Heath and she can get you scheduled to set up for that. And that's going to be on Wednesday at 6:30. The secondary PTA also has $1,400 to give away in grants. If you're a staff member with a special project or in need of classroom items, contact Miriam. Student Achievement, the Governor's Merit Scholarship Program launched December 4th. This program provides up to $5,000 per year in financial assistance to our seniors who are identified as graduating in the top 5% of their class. The district can take advantage of this opportunity through an online application portal at meritscholarships.ohio.gov. So, any students that can do that would be great.
We're on it.
Great. Some events that I attended, I also attended the King of the Hill event. First, I had never been to a wrestling event, so when I first walked in, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this safe, But it was really, really exciting to see. I think I actually have a new interest, so I'm excited to attend future events. I got to meet with Adam Coffey. I can only imagine how stressful it was for him, but he held it together. It was a great event. So the band concert was also incredible. It was one of the better concerts I've attended in a long time. The students played beautifully. Mr. Delaney and Mr. Frank have done an amazing job with our children, so thank you. Voices Finneytown, Eddie touched on. They went to Brookdale Nursing Home, and they sang to residents to add some holiday cheer to the residents, and you could just see how they just were so excited about it, just seeing the kids perform. Ms. Field actually walked the kids to Brookdale in the cold, so kudos to her for doing that for 2 days. So we appreciate Ms. Fields. Breakfast with Santa was so much fun. We attended that event. My kids were so excited. Voices also performed there, the band performed there, well-attended event, thanks to everybody who participated in that. Also, I will be a part of the OSBA Planning Committee for 2024, so if you guys have any feedback for the conference, I know most of us have attended, so if you have any information or feedback or suggestions, let me know through email. Hopefully everybody got a chance to see Laurie's interview. It was amazing. She represented our district very well. We appreciate everything you've done for our community. So, also, Merry Christmas to you and Dave. We appreciate everything you guys do for our district and our community and the way you show up for us. We have a little special something for you guys. I know Tony really didn't want to do this, but I truly appreciate you guys. Should have had it ready, huh? I'll look for those in a moment. But thank you so much. Merry Christmas. We're going to get to the organizational meeting dates now. Is that what we're going to work on now?
I do have one last thing. So I
Okay.
did attend the relaunch of the Grandparents and Special Friends Day at Elementary. It did not happen because of COVID. And Nancy Rouse, I mean, I think she pulled a lot together, but one of the really important things she did was invite people to come, just for a student. And so Dawn and I did that. And at one point, I had a student really kind of upset, one sitting right next to me. He's like, I didn't even have a special friend. And I got to tell him, I said, you're the only reason I'm here today. And it made a huge difference for that one student. So that call out, I'll support that again next year. And it was just a really nice opportunity to go and see that, see Miss Fields once again. Each group do different songs, and everybody worked, and great to see that relaunched. I really enjoyed that.
I want to say thank you, Tony. Also, you've just been like a mentor to me. I appreciate you. Just, even though you've had a lot of service and experience on the board, you never made me feel like I wasn't worthy, and you've just always been there for me, and I appreciate it. I'm going to miss you. So, our hour-long phone calls at times here and there. And so, you've been like the glue for the board, and you're going to be missed. So.
Yeah, okay, so now we can schedule an organizational meeting. I did talk with Seth ahead of time, so
Yes.
he will not be joining the discussion because he said I could represent him. And he made it really simple to do, too.
I know Jamie has commitments on Mondays and Wednesday he coaches. I think Eddie said after 3:30, and Seth mentioned the FMPA meeting and Pro Action Cafe on the 9th of January. Jamie also had an important tip that needs to be done by the 15th.
Yeah.
I can't be there on Thursday,
Can't be there when?
Thursday on the 14th of January.
Okay.
I do have the date right.
I
That's
don't
not
think
the
so.
14th.
I don't
14th
think
is a
so.
Sunday.
Thursday, the 11th?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, Thursday the 11th, so we'll scratch that off because Dave wasn't able to be there at all on the
No,
Thursday.
not that evening.
Okay.
So it sounds like pretty much the whole week of the 8th is out, except for Friday. But at least for me, the week of the first week of January, I have very little on the calendar. Nothing has really started back up for me.
Can I ask real quick? So the 8th is Monday. You're occupied on Monday. Okay.
I am as well.
Is the 8th a Thursday?
It's a Monday.
No, that's a
And you
Monday.
said Wednesdays as well.
Would you
Monday
like
and
it?
Wednesdays.
Monday and Wednesdays are bad. Okay. I'm just scratching out so that we can see what's left. So that leaves it with the 4th, the 9th, and the 12th.
Well, 2nd, 4th, and 5th, right?
2nd, 4th, 5th. The 9th,
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought we
4th,
said was
5th,
out.
4th, 5th, 9th, 12th.
The 9th is out.
9th is out for,
His birthday's on the
What
12th.
what about the 4th?
Okay.
It's my birthday.
I thought so. I remember
Yeah.
the 12th.
well, Tony won't be on the board anymore.
I might
so-
attend as a birthday
So is
present to
January also?
myself.
I'm the 10th.
10, okay.
Yeah. Tony came on his birthday last year, so.
Why was the 9th out? Sorry, just to-
FMPA meeting and Pro Action Cafe.
I am also not available.
Okay, so
on
4th,
Tuesdays.
5th, 12th.
I'd prefer the 4th.
For the 4th.
I mean, I personally would prefer that since it's the first, like,
Yeah.
we're just getting back. That's the day that FinnyTown's just begun, right?
Further away from the due date.
And that too.
Yeah.
Well, I like to squeeze things as much toward whatever.
Far away from that deadline. right?
No, just if I have a lot of things going on. So if a lot's going on, school starting, we may as well have an organization meeting. So
Let's get it all
that's
done
kind
at
of-
once.
So the 4th,
Is January 4th a Thursday?
Yes.
That's the one.
Uh-oh. That's the
The
Thursday.
4th, not the 11th, it's the 4th.
Okay, well, that leaves us with the 5th or the 12th. Is that right? Yeah, 5th or 12th.
Fourth?
The second is not a holiday. I am available that day as well.
Finneytown does not have school, and
Yeah.
neither do I. So
So let's not do that.
I would prefer not to do that day.
Okay.
And the 12th is a staff in service. Is there a reason we couldn't do it on the 12th?
Well,
Is that the Friday?
Yeah, it's
Both of those are
Friday too,
Fridays.
which is probably not good. So if we don't want to do a Friday, the 5th's a Friday too.
The 11th should be available then if you're not
Okay,
available
it's the
before.
14th, I can't do.
That's a
Dave, you're
Sunday.
killing
Sunday.
us. Dave, you're killing us.
Is he playing the game?
Say, what's up with Dave today?
Dave just wants
We're not
his
sure.
vacation and the holiday to
Yeah,
come
it's
so he can get out of here.
I just don't think he wants to go to this.
Do we need a recess for you to call your wife?
I don't know. Are the 4th and 11th okay or not? Which one's not?
It's a Thursday.
The 4th and the 11th are the Thursday.
I think the,
Who do you need to text?
Are we available both
We're all
Thursdays?
laughing.
Are we just all depending on Dave?
I mean, I think we're both available the 4th and the 11th.
Are you available both the 4th and the 11th?
I'll make it work.
I am.
You're not on the board.
I think we're laughing
As
because David is
Seth's
usually very quick
representative,
to
is he
answer.
available on the
Yes,
4th and the
Are you
11th?
We're
available
not
fourth
laughing
and 11th?
because.
So let's establish that it will be either the 4th or the 11th, and the follow-up will be Dave will confirm which one he's available.
Got it.
Okay, wait, caveat.
should talk
I am
about
not-
times.
I am not available on the 11th.
At all? Okay, then
And I'm
that
like,
leaves
so
the
the 4th then.
4th and, or otherwise it's on a Friday, the 5th or 12th,
Okay, I can do either of those.
right?
The fifth will not work for me on.
5th is bad altogether?
Yes.
So we have 12th or the 4th?
Maybe.
No, and the 12th is the holiday weekend, right?
And
Yes.
that's the
Yes,
in-service.
it is the in-service day.
And I'm
Yeah,
heading,
kids
on the
are-
12th, I'm heading to Louisville for a hockey tournament.
So it needs to be
Wow.
the 4th, so hopefully Dave doesn't
I
have
think the
anything on
4th is okay.
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 Okay, 4th it is.
What's the availability for everyone after that? I'm available 3:30 or after on that particular day.
My
What's
work
outside?
This is how it works, everybody.
And that's normally like, what, a 2-hour meeting or so probably the earlier the, no, not that.
I mean,
Yeah, so it could be
For
shorter.
most districts, it's 20
Okay.
minutes.
Oh, okay. I think ours
Yes,
lasted a long
yes.
time before.
Let's say an hour and 15.
You will not be able to pin the time of that meeting on me.
No.
I leave downtown. I would probably need to start at 6 or later.
Okay. At what time?
6 or later.
Earlier the starts, the better, even if it
Yeah,
goes over
that would
dinner
be
is my
great.
general.
6 is fine.
6 is.
6,
6 is fine.
January 4th at 6.
Okay, so, okay, the board committee report from,
They did one last month,
Right.
and I think it was part of the minutes last month,
right,
so there's.
that could have come up, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have this on the agenda
This-
every month, just in case there's one to receive.
Sounds good.
So, thank you.
Okay, time to move on now. Can I have a motion for the adoption of resolution to discontinue the practice of bringing FMLA and paid parental leave requests to the board for direct approval at its public meetings?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
Didn't really have more to say other than what I said last month. I mean, I could kind of go either way. I'm not sure how much it helps with privacy, given that it's public information anyway, but it's not like something that I feel super, I'm not gonna lose sleep over not having it on the agenda. So for me, it's like, so, I'll vote no, but it doesn't really matter that much.
I think the only thing that wasn't called out is it would make it easier for Latora and Dave and Lori to not have to pull that information and put it on there. It may not be a big step, but it's at least one that we can take away.
If they already know what's going on, it's not a huge deal, but.
Share the same similar thoughts. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. If, board members feel like it's, gonna protect our staff members' privacy, then I'm open to, passing that, so.
Okay, any other discussion?
Is there anything else that we vote on that if we vote no, it still goes into effect? Like, it's not like we vote no on FMLA leave. They don't get FMLA leave, they still do.
No, this is just reporting it.
Well,
our minutes.
well, I'm
But if
just
we
saying
were
in
to vote-
general,
if we
this
were
is,
to
but
have
but it's
FMLA
part of the
come up and
vote,
we
like we're
voted
voting
no,
on it, right? It's part of the
what
consent
happens?
calendar. But is there anything else we vote on that if we vote no, it still happens anyways?
It doesn't matter.
Like,
We can't vote no on FMLA.
yeah, so then why are we voting on it anyway? That's
The
why-
other
yes,
question also goes
exactly.
into, if we were to vote no on the consent calendar because of other reasons, would that have negative implications if
That's a good
FMLA
question.
was part of it? Another,
That is a good question, but
Another
I think
point
a lot
to
of
why
boards
we
have it
just-
on there just anyway, but there's not really anything else that I know of, that if we voted no on, it would still happen. Yeah.
right.
So I think there is a point to be made on that.
Okay. We go have a roll call vote on this.
Okay, Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Nope.
Mr. Gask,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Item passes. Item 10, financial matters. Got a motion to the adoption of the consent calendar.
I'll move.
I'll second.
And Mr. Oliveria, take us through this, please.
Okay, the first item, a monthly financial report. So in the month of December, we had revenues in our general fund of $636,248. Fiscal year-to-date revenues in the general fund at the end of November, $9,682,018. Expenditures in November were $2,017,809, and for the fiscal year, $8,492,126. The cash balance in the general fund at the end of November was $14,908,257. Item D, depository investment balances as of November 30th, 2023. U.S. Bank, $407,675.20. U.S. Bank Construction, $3,681,013.45. Star Ohio, $22,628,995.16. Star Ohio Construction number 2, $3,190,567.30. Star Ohio Construction number 1, $1,153,901.33. And our Star Ohio for our state share, $858,960.52. Item C, depository investment. Interest earned for November, general fund, $111,977.73, and for our construction fund, $30,328.73. Item D is the monthly bond project spending commitment report. Once again, not a lot of activity since last month. The only expenditure was some money for our Finneytown Elementary bleachers. And we've expended on that construction project. This also includes our stadium turf project, by the way. Whenever I talk about phase 1, it does also include that. $23,749,906. We have $312,000 in purchase orders that are outstanding based upon phase 1. And at this point, our uncommitted balance is approximately $7.7 million, which rolls into phase 2, secondary campus construction project, and any LFIs that are part of phase 2, locally funded initiatives.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So the 100 building renovation for the, I think that just gone out to bid. I missed that meeting, but we approved that that's going out to bid. Whatever amount that ends up being, do we have a ballpark of what that would be, first of all? Do we know? That might be more of a question for Lori.
Well, that's being broken up into 2 phases.
Okay.
The phase 1 is going out for bid. I think that totals less than $1 million.
Okay.
I
That's
don't know
what I
exactly where it
guessed,
will come in.
based on
It
what you
won't
saw.
be paid out of these LFI dollars.
Okay.
Okay, it's
Where
not.
will that come from?
We set up a capital projects
Okay.
budget, and so that's probably where that will be funded
Okay.
from.
That's
And
what
then
I guessed.
750,000 will be
Was-
paid for out of ESSER.
And that's
Oh,
true,
really?
there is a
Okay.
certain amount.
Part of
Yeah.
it's estimate,
Okay,
really,
that's certain.
for the first part of the project. For the
Yeah, for phase 1.
Okay.
Okay, item E is a recommendation to approve 2 invoices as listed. The first one actually is the Finneytown Elementary bleachers payment I was talking about. We actually had an invoice in place and it accidentally got canceled at the end of the fiscal year. And so that's why it's on here, because we had created a new purchase order, not knowing that it had been canceled. So anyway, those 2 items are on there as listed. And then item F is a recommendation to approve the 5-year forecast. So do have the 5-year forecast in the back, and got a copy of the executive session that we've referred to. Hopefully, this will help identify the things that are most important to get out of this. Of course, we do this twice a year as required by the state. This was submitted to the state. They have it. When I tell people to look at the 5-year forecast and try to glean information from it, the first thing I really think people need to do is look at the ending cash balance, find out when we run out of money. That's important because state law does not permit us to spend more money than we have. And so, of course, when you run out of money, you have to figure out what to do about that. Maybe bring in some additional revenue, cut some expenditures, some combination of that. Often a levy might be involved. There's some timing on that's not short. It takes a while. For one thing, you have to comply with all the requirements in terms of submitting the levy to various agencies. But there's also the matter of how you get a levy passed, and we're not allowed to use our funding or our people, particularly our superintendent, our treasurer, to go out and pass a levy. So we need community members to do that. And so a whole community campaign has to be put together. And there's a lot of time involved with that as well. And so anyway, if you look at this 5-year forecast, this is really the first time I've had to come with you and show you that we don't have positive cash balances throughout the 5-year horizon. We do reach a deficit cash position in our 5th year. Now that is 5 years out. And as you look at the 5-year forecast, the further you got in time, the less certainty you have. And so it's more guesswork. Going to be pretty accurate in the first few years, but again, as time goes out, you have to make assumptions. You don't know if those assumptions are actually going to play out or not. And when you look at our funding, there are 2 big pieces of funding. You've got the state money that comes to us in every school district, and then you've got the money that you raise locally through operating levies. And when we look at the 5-year forecast, this is speaking to the general fund, not all the other funds. We have lots of other funds, but this is the big fund. This is the one we have the most discretion over how it's spent. This is the one we use to do our day-to-day activities, hire the vast majority of our employees. And so it's the health of this fund is very important to our future. What you see after looking at when we run out of money, which is 7.02, and in cash balance, I would say to look at the line right above that, operating surplus or deficit. And so what you do see are rather large numbers appearing on that line even before we run out of money. And that speaks to what is the balance between the revenues coming in and the money going out in the form of expenditures. And so we are showing an imbalance here. We're showing that our revenues are not keeping up with our expenditures. What's driving expenditures? Well, right now inflation's a big issue. Other things that we have built in to that are staffing increases, because we really do believe that our student enrollment is low and that it will grow. And there are things that are encouraging. One would be our new buildings and the excitement involved with that. The chance for people to take another look at these schools and be impressed, with what terrific buildings that, we have built and are planning. Another thing to consider is the marketing initiative, which we've begun, and we've got some money set aside for that, and there are plans in place to try to, again, get people to take a look at Finneytown in a special way that we haven't done before. So, those things will help. On the other side of that, you've got Ed Choice, which could draw students away from us, possibly. We don't know to what extent that'll happen, but certainly that is a challenge for us, a little bit of a risk. So those are things we're looking at. In the executive summary, some of the things that I've listed, I think we should stop and consider and think about. What I am suggesting is that if we were not to do anything, or if we were not to intervene with this 5-year forecast and what's being forecast and what's being assumed, and things don't change, what we're really looking at is 3 years from now an operating levy. That's it's been a long time since we've had a levy. I don't think that'll make it any easier for people to pass, but I don't think that we have to have a levy in 3 years. But this is kind of what happens if we don't make any adjustments. I think the best thing to do is to look at increasing our revenues, and it's not always general fund revenues. There are opportunities to bring money in other ways. Probably won't happen through student growth because we're on the guarantee. So what that means is normally, if you are on the formula, you have additional students, the state recognizes that, they give you additional money. But we have lost students, and that decline has caused us to a point where we are getting the same amount of money each year. We've done that for about 6 or 7, 8 years now. We've been on the guarantee. And so that money has not grown. That's something to think about. But if you were to look at these operating deficits, and you figure out, like, well, okay, you've got a deficit of this amount of money, how many mills would that be? And I think that's the way you need to think about it, because that's how you cover that. And so I can tell you from looking at these are large millages. And so I don't think they're cheap the way they are. So that's just something for us to think about. We don't have to do anything today, we don't have to do anything tomorrow, but we need to be thinking about this, and the sooner we start, the better. So reappraisal is something that people have been talking about. There's a lot more concern about that right now because the increases are so large that it's really affecting certain districts that are at the 20 mil floor. Now that's complicated and it's technical. What I can tell you is Finneytown is not at the 20 mil floor, so we're not a district that's going to experience a huge windfall from this. This forecast was submitted before I knew what those values are. I do know what they are now. And in Finneytown, the average increase in residential property value went up 38%. So that's significant. And that will bring in some additional money for us on our inside millage, which is a small piece of what we collect. There was an increase kind of across the board. I saw it in residential, I saw it in commercial industrial, also in public utility. And so commercial property taxpayers and public utility taxpayers are going to pay, a good portion of that increase, but there's also going to be some on, on our residents. And so, that will cost them a little bit more. And of course, times they are a little tough right now, so that might not be easy for anybody. The last thing I really want to mention is ESSER. I put these where you can find them right at the beginning, this executive summary, and then I've got the next 2 pages, which kind of get into ESSER a little bit. And so Mr. Reeb has asked me at some point, and I'm sort of responding to that now, but for all of you, if you look at the first page, I've got some information on ESSER, how we spent over the last 4 years. This is 4 years worth of money, and it's just over $4 million that we had available to us, and we sort of ramped it up. You can see we only spent about $270,000 in that first year, And by the end of this year, we're looking at about $1.6 million in ESSER spending. And that was money for, well, it's short-term money for, you could call it a short-term need or a long-term need. I think maybe there's some maybe not perfect agreement on whether all the bad things that happened because of COVID have been solved at this point, and we don't need any more money. But the thing is, that money is now gone. And so we're spending $1.6 million out of our ESSER funds in this fiscal year, and it's gone next year. So what happens to the general fund? Well, you know, we've looked at this, and on the second page, again, this might not be the easiest thing to look at, but if you look in that last column at the very bottom, the administrative team, we're looking at $525,000 that will have to be added or increased to the general fund budget next year to pick up the, you know, that loss of funding. And so, you know, I guess you look at it two ways. If it's being carried with the general fund, then you can say, well, it's pretty important that we have to continue it, and it's nice that we were able to spend that money in the last couple of years out of ESSER, and so that has helped us in terms of the next operating levy, but at the same time, it's gone now, and we have to figure out a way to replace it. And that's part of the reason why you look at the 5-year forecast, why those deficits get pretty large starting next year, because every one of those years has an additional $525,000 plus inflationary growth added in, and that's driving up the expenditures. On the other hand, you look at revenues, you don't see revenue growth. You don't see it anywhere. We're not passing any operating levies. At least we don't have plans for that, and we can't put it in until we pass it anyway. And the other thing is, we've already talked about how state money is not going to grow. I've kind of calculated on my own, the state doesn't provide this, but I think that it would probably take about over 100 students before we get on the formula and start seeing additional state money, and I think it's probably more like 130 students. So we're a long way from that. This year we had an increase in students of 15 students, like just under 2%. And you know, we felt that a little bit. We had to add some staff, and so you know, imagine adding 130 students and you know what the staffing needs and the supply needs, equipment needs, other needs might be. You know, I mean, there are going to be some dollars associated with that as well, and so that's part of the reason why you know we need to look at this and kind of prepare ourselves for things that could happen. Are there any questions about any of these items? So I would invite you to read through the executive summary and contact me if there's anything that you'd like some more information about that we can discuss further. And, you know, if we want to meet as a board at some point for a special meeting, talk this over.
I do have a
Tony wants one.
You already answered. Sorry. You already answered one of my questions, but my other question was, so let's say you just said we're 3 years out. So then my question is, how much has to be cut, not assuming more revenues, in order to make up for that year? Not saying we do, but just in theory, if we wanted to make up for a year, how much has to be cut over the next 3 years in order to make up for another year's worth of?
Yeah, you know, it's hard to answer that question. What I would do, I think we make it easier when we look at expenditure growth and we try to control expenditure growth. And instead of, like you'll see, you know, anywhere between 5 to 9+% growth in expenditures. And I think the best way to deal with this is we say, you know, we're going to limit growth to maybe 2%. And what a difference that makes. And is that something we can live with? And we know that we can't go forever without an operating levy. But if we grow, you know, at a level that we all can live with, you know, I think that's the best way to come at that. Let's see what happens if we can limit our growth to 2%. And 2% has been, I can tell you, it's been a magic number in the past. If we can get down to 2%, it really has an impact. It really helps.
So how would, and how has the board handled this kind of, okay, we have this cliff we're about to fall off of in 3 years unless we have a levy. The board gets together in a separate meeting and have a conversation, and the superintendent and treasurer kind of give us kind of your advice and thoughts on what we could do, and then we kind of go from there.
Yeah, it starts with brainstorming.
Okay. Because my general premise is, yeah, cut in order to push it off another year, another 2 years. So that's kind of just my general attitude. That's not necessarily the attitude that everyone might like, but that's my general. If we're at $525,000, like, okay, do we need $200,000 of that? And then how much of a difference does that really make? If it doesn't make a difference, then maybe it's not even worth considering. So those would be the kind of conversations that I would want to have.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ed Choice here. When does, I haven't seen dates, when did that go into effect, and do we anticipate seeing that hurt us more than, how much do we think that would?
Yeah, so it's already in effect, and, you know, we do have growth over last year, and so it hasn't hurt us any more than other things have helped us. Right now, you know, the real limitation is the state's ability to keep up with applications. I understand there's a backlog of applications, and so, you know, they have to process those, and they're processing these. So there are people this school year that are going to be told, yes, you could be in this program. They just haven't been able to alert them to that. Now, are they going to want to change mid-year? I don't know, but I think next year is where we get a much better idea how this is going to impact us. And so this year, I believe that private school enrollment is up 2%, is the official number statewide. So yeah, where's that going to go when there's time for people to figure out about this program, whether they want to be a part this year? It was really difficult to.
Well, and it started really late this year compared to when people were applying and.
Keep in mind, people that have never been in a public school
Are getting
can
this
request that
money.
money, right?
Oh,
So
exactly.
it's people
So
that have
that's
never
why I
had an
asked.
intention of going to public school can ask for that money.
And they
That's
are.
why I asked.
And those that might otherwise send their children to public school might not decide, hey, I'm going to jump off this cliff and pull my kid out, not knowing if it's going to be renewed by the state after next year, because they don't know.
If what's going to be renewed?
The Ed Choice, because it was only.
They increased the budget by $1.5 billion
So is it-
to
so do you
give
think it's
more
gonna-
money to
So do you think it'll
non-public
be in effect
schools.
past next year? Maybe
Yes.
You know more than I do.
Yes, hands down.
I
it's
didn't
gonna
know that.
pass next year.
So it'll still be in effect. Okay. Then it is a long term. Thank you. I didn't know that, so I appreciate it.
So that's all I have to say about that, unless there are any other questions. This time,
So we'll keep that in mind for a future conversation in the next few months. That's the board.
Great.
Okay, any more discussion or questions? We have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Gast,
Yes,
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen.
Yes.
item passes. I motion for 11.1, superintendent's recommendations, adoption of the consent calendar.
I'll move.
Second. Okay. Dr. Ranks.
All right, most of the items in the consent calendar have to do with staffing and personnel. And I just want to take this opportunity to give a quick shout out to particularly our 2 building principals. We have faced some challenges this year for sure with staffing. We continue to face those. We're working really hard on filling all the vacancies we have, but it has not been easy. We were able to, item B, hire 2 general ed educational assistants at FE, Julia Birchwell and Abigail Birchman, so we welcome them.
Will they just be floaters, kind of as needed?
Yeah, assigned
And those were vacant
based on
positions
student
that have
need.
been filled. They're not new positions.
No, those were vacant.
That's great.
Yeah, so we still have 4 vacancies. We have an IVS position at the elementary. We have
Intervention specialists.
intervention
Okay.
specialist, yes. We have a 7th grade ELA position, long-term sub or higher. And then we have 3 special ed assistants at the elementary. And then we also have a current long-term sub that I think we might have hire for and at the elementary. And then we have some upcoming long-term subs at the secondary campus. So we're working on it. Just know that it's not without challenge and a lot of time and effort by both our building principals, so, and their teams.
So the hourly rate looks very specific. Is that contractually negotiated?
Yeah. And then item E, we have a lot of wrestling trips coming up. Those are all either overnight or out of state. They're providing our students with a lot of different opportunities, our student athletes to go and wrestle in different places, so that's exciting.
So how are these being funded?
So, that's a great question. It is no charge of the students. The transportation, my understanding, is arranged through the athletic budget. But then in terms of any other expense, I can't answer that. I can ask Gerald. I don't honestly know. But I do know that it is, they do a lot of separate fundraising with the alumni from wrestling. So I'm thinking that that is what contributes to financing that. I can find out for sure and let you guys know though.
Yeah, the foundation has had a lot of designated gifts to pass through for wrestling.
They got letter jackets that were donated. These jackets were a few $100s a
Van
piece.
trip to Florida, that sounds fun.
3 of these are the same day?
Different divisions, different groups.
Yeah, is there any concern with chaperoning and making sure we have enough adults?
They have, and I can share that with the board, they sent the whole plan.
Okay.
I'd be happy to share that with you. So they have it
Tell me
all
they got it.
worked out,
I
yeah.
believe you.
They're going in 2 days.
But the district would usually provide extra, okay, this sports team is going on this trip. We wouldn't necessarily step in to provide extra help for that historically.
No.
Okay.
not to
It's just whatever's in their budget that they might get from the district already, they could spend on this or for
Correct.
sport organizations.
Correct.
Okay.
Or
Yeah,
volunteers.
the Boosters has a budget for each sport that they can spend as they choose, as well as grants.
And then just renewal of the OSBA membership, and then our school calendar, last but not least. Second review and adoption of that.
So the calendar, we're coming back to school on Monday the 6th next. I'm just looking at the Christmas break. So it's right before Christmas and then coming back for a few days. Okay.
How do you guys decide on the calendars? I know you normally
So
give
we
the staff members a choice, but how do you pick those calendars?
It's part of the contract, so there's a timeline and all the things that we have to follow with the union. And so it always starts with the union meeting, talking about what's important. This year was the first time we had calendars where we were trying to get, increase the frequency of the time we had professional development time. So we were looking at some of our professional development days being half days, so that we could come in contact with, for planning and conversations more frequently. And so Latora gets, she puts a ton of time into it. She creates the calendars based on the feedback we get from that initial meeting. Then we send it out for feedback. We get a feedback, we do a few tweaks, and then we send it out to the staff to vote. And we've always gone with the majority. That's what we bring to you guys. So.
Great.
And then again, the first week of school for elementary is staggered.
Correct, yes.
Just
And we'll get that out as
saying
soon
it
as we
again
have
so
it.
parents
Yeah,
know that.
absolutely.
Anyone
Yeah.
watching knows that.
Yeah.
So I will say, I feel like this is the one thing that I vote on, and I vote on, it's like, yeah, that looks great, I see it looks good, and then every year it's like, man, why did we do that? There's always something, and it's a no-win situation with the calendars, it feels like. Do we have anyone from the community or parents involved at all to say, hey, this might be a concern for parents, or this might be an issue, are you paying attention to that?
No, it's all through the union. Up to this point, it's always been just working with the union on it.
I don't know if that would be beneficial at all, but it always feels like when we get through the year, it's like, wow, those dates don't really.
Here's the one
make sense or
challenge with
something.
that, though. It's like this time, to be quite honest, the calendar I wanted did not get picked. And so there's always gonna be somebody disappointed and upset.
Oh, always.
And
Absolutely. It's
so
a no-win.
The more, yeah, I just, that is a challenge for
I
sure.
guess the teachers are parents too, right?
That's
So-
true. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? So
Yeah.
you said that we're over on our number of, it's by hour.
Yeah.
So how many days is that up to? Does that add up to? And how does that relate to snow days, calamity days?
Yeah, we have a pretty
Is it
decent
5?
amount built
So-
in both calendars, because when we switched to hours, we did not switch. We stayed at days, And so that allows for a pretty good cushion. So if we had to take 5 snow days, we would not have to make any days up.
Okay, so
Actually,
we
I
still
think we
have
could
that
take
5.
10.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
like back when I was in high school, it was a 5 snowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got a nice cushion.
Back when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I just remember we knew the 5 number was after that we had to make up days, so that was the number I had in my head.
There was no such thing.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Gast?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yeah.
Item passes. Number 12, review of action steps. I need to get you the agenda for the community meetings for strategy.
Yes, please. And then I will get you guys the full proposal for the wrestling trips.
And just as a course of just regular agenda planning, you'll get a proposal for the solar eclipse.
Yeah, thank you.
We did finalize all the evaluations, right?
Yes.
I didn't receive them, so I didn't have anything.
Did we need to do anything more with the job description, or is there another step to that? Because it was a draft.
Right, so there's 2 things. There's going to be another one coming out for treasurer. So there's a small amount of input on that. It's much more formulaic for the treasurer that Dave provided. We actually got a sneak preview of the upcoming, not fully approved. I appreciate you giving that to me, Dave. And that basically, you have a similar section where they can take the words we used about our district for some free form, but then also a specific list of options, like what does your district put in the treasurer versus other, perhaps, business manager, whatever. So, Dave's gonna help me with that, understanding what our role is, what we expect from our treasurer. So that, probably, Tom indicated probably be another much shorter meeting to round that out for treasurer. So for those job descriptions, I know if we're gonna change the policy to reflect the job descriptions, that'd be a board vote. Do you know if we need to formally, as a board, accept the job descriptions for treasurer and the standards-based job descriptions for treasurer, superintendent?
I don't think that you need to do
Yes,
that.
I didn't think so either. But if we do have accompanying policy change to reflect the job descriptions, then that would be a policy update.
We can have a future discussion about the discipline data. Is that something that, or just if we have questions, we can ask you individually?
If you have questions,
Okay.
ask me. I mean, it's really being, the building principals lead that conversation too with their teams and look at it, so there's already action taking.
I did want to say thank you for that, because when Tony and I were having our discussions, that was one of the things that we were talking about, was I wish we had more discipline data, and you did it, I don't even think that we put that in there. I think that might have been in there.
I think it-
Yeah, I believe it was, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, announcements. The next regular meeting of the Freetown Board of Education will take place on Tuesday, January 16, 2024, at 6:30 in the Media Center at the Freetown Secondary Campus, 8916 Fountainblue Terrace, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45231. Open forum will begin at 6 p.m. Can I have a motion for
We
adjournment?
announced the
Oh.
budget hearing organizational meeting as well.
Oh, okay, so that will be January
4th.
4th or 11th.
The 4th.
So we're confident, because you're not available.
4th, yeah.
What's happening January 4th, 6 p.m. in the district office? What do you want to do, yeah?
Does it need to be somewhere else, because we do have a swearing in?
Yeah, we should probably have it here.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's a
we'll
swearing
do.
in.
Yeah.
This is a better venue for that.
Okay.
Media Center?
Yep.
I'll make
And
sure it's available.
there might be cookies at that also? Okay.
Yeah, everybody make sure you take a sweet treat.
Okay.
Sure.
Now can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.
Congratulations.
We're going for goodness.